Greetings everyone, Dolph Oblivious back with you for another episode of Wretched Hive Recap. Now, there's no reverberation on that. What do you think this is? Some sort of podcast with money? No, that's not us. Anyway, latest episode here. This is actually going to be a quick one for a change. Last few episodes we've done here have been quite lengthy because there has been quite to talk and rage about. So what's on the agenda for today, this episode? Well, just a couple of things actually, so let's take a look at them here, shall we? First thing, impressions from a newish player. And Dulfy, SWTOR Celebration Cantina Q&A on group content. So yes, that's the main event there. Apparently, during the Cantina event, during Star Wars Celebration over the pond in jolly old London, England. Of course, they had their Cantina event with a standard Cantina code. I was glad to actually see that the Cantina code that they gave out for this Cantina was actually just one flat code for everybody. No hunting and pecking and hoping to find a right code from somebody who was actually able to attend the event. I think they did things the smart way this time. I mean, the first time, hey, yeah, sure, it was a novelty, but after, the second to the third one, it started, this is a little annoying. Got to go, try to find a code that works, put it in, share your code, what you do with your code, this kind of stuff. So one flat code, everybody gets something. That's the way it should be. Very good. But more importantly, things that we learned from the panels and stuff like that was that there's a new expansion coming in October. Yeah. I mean, we couldn't have guessed that. Yes. So we got absolutely zero new and important information about SWTOR from anything officially on the panels. Actually, a lot of good information from the rest of the EA stuff, actually. Some good information about upcoming features and events, and of course, all the other panels and all fun Star Wars-y stuff. But it was afterwards, after the Cantina and all that stuff. Apparently there was some questions and not so answers, but what was stated as answers, or I should say what was stated in response to these questions, is quite interesting. But we'll get on to that. First up, let's take a look at this here. Impressions from a newish player. Piper here, he's a fairly newish guy here. Posted his impressions. Well, let's see what Piper has to say. I started playing just a little over a month ago, and I have to say I really enjoyed the game. Maybe I like it because I just came from one of the worst trash Asian MMO cash grab pieces of garbage grinds on the market today. BNS. Off the top of my head, I don't recall what that's and which game that refers to. Doesn't matter now, does it anyway? Or maybe this is just a good game. I haven't made up my mind about that yet. Anyway, I've had a good time so far. When I decided to try out a new MMO, I thought I'd try one that I didn't know anything about. Really? You didn't know anything about this? I'd just jump in with no expectations and explore the game for myself. And that's exactly what I did. I'd heard of the game, of course, and everyone knows Star Wars, but other than that, I didn't have a clue. Really? Right off the bat, I was excited to see I could play a Sith. Neat! But all the Sith were ugly. So I tried out the other races. All of them. This was the first disappointment in the game. Pardon me for a moment. Okay, thank you. Because not only are there no sliders for character creation, but even the best-looking females still look derpy. Oh well. I made a cyborg and covered up part of her face with implants and stuff. I decided to play an Inquisitor because... lightning! I mean, come on. Lightning! Then I chose Beggarin Colony because it sounded like a nice place. The intro quests didn't impress me at all. The story was good, but the quests were almost bad. I kept having to seethe after every pool, and I felt incredibly weak and squishy. Mobs were packed together in 3s and 5s every few feet. I remember thinking that if this was how the game was going to play out, I wasn't going to stick around long. And then I got Chem, and everything was better. After getting Chem, I realized that combat, at least soloing, was tuned for having a companion. It would have been less annoying to get a companion off the bat, and quest without all that damn seething, but whatever. And as I continued questing, I also realized that all the quests, were pretty much the same. Run all over the map with mobs packed together everywhere to disable the 6 conduit stabilizing communication generator arrays, and then kill some bad bleep, bleep, bleep. I think he meant to say ass. Anyway, let me stop there for a moment and let's go back to here. So, okay, yeah, newish player, good. I mean, nothing, good. Didn't have a clue about the game. I'm sure there's still some people out there, even though this game has been around for almost 6 bloody years. Sith, all the Sith were ugly. Yeah, again, character creation, not quite as robust as it can be. So, hey, not every Sith can look as good as me. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, tried out the other races. There's a look of disappointment because, again, there are actually sliders for character creation, but they are not a very robust feature of the game. Yeah, so that is disappointing. Made a cyborg, Inquisitor, because lightning. Yeah, well, that's pretty much why I went with Inquisitor right off the bat. Lightning! Then, of course, when I made my counselor, I had to go, double-bladed lightsaber. How can you not? I mean, seriously. So, yeah, I can get that. But here we go. Let's pop back in here. The intro quest didn't impress me at all. The story's good, but the quests were almost bad. So I'm not exactly sure he's meaning there whether they're bad because, he was getting his butt handed to him. But this is the first thing here. I felt incredibly weak and squishy. Well, yes. I mean, again, he's a new player, so he's not familiar with the classes and everything like that. But yes, weak and squishy. Well, he just happened to pick the weak and squishy class that starts out with. So yes, he picked more or less sort of a healer DPS type class. So you are going to be weak and squishy. You'll learn to heal to full. Noob. But anyway, mobs were packed together in 3s and 4s every few feet. And remember, that was how it was going to play out. Stick around. And I got Kevin. Everything was back. Kevin, etc. So again, all the quests. Again, talking about questing here. And let's see. Go back up to there. And he was saying, a new MMO is with trash. Okay, so basically, it sounds like this might be only his second MMO. So he's rather new to MMOs, and it's unfortunate that I guess he picked whatever this the Asian free-to-play cash grab grind is. But welcome to MMOs, Piper, Piper, yeah, well, Pi and Pyre, Piper. We'll just call you Piper. How's that? Anyway, welcome to MMOs. That's what MMOs are all about. That's standard fare I mean, I mean, that's, I mean, almost standard fare for the RPG genre. This type of setup. So the MMOs just carried that over and just made it a perpetual, so to speak, type of online world with that. So there's not much innovation. Very few games actually veer off the course from that in any major way. So, I mean, that's just standard fare. That's just the way it is. I mean, it's just something I happen to enjoy. I mean, yes, you know, some of the grind can be aggravating every once in a while and boring and that kind of stuff. You know, it does wear on you, but overall, I mean, the format, the mechanics, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, for me, it doesn't really bother me all that much. I'm fine with it. But the one thing here, again, this sort of points to his noobishness with the MMO genre, where he was saying, was tuned for having a companion. Well, actually, you know, we've been less knowing to get a oops, hello, we don't want to do that. We want to do all the damn seething, self-healing, whatever. But again, now that's hello. What? Whoa, hi. No, we don't need that. We don't need to do that at all. Anyway, but well, this is an MMO. I mean, it's tuned to have a companion, but it's actually grouping. I know BioWare has sort of forgotten that aspect of it, and all these coder jerky boys have forgotten the aspect that this was at the outset designed to be an MMO in the coder world, sort of like Elder Scrolls Online was designed to be an MMO in the Elder Scrolls world. You know, you see how that works? It's sort of, you know, you're supposed to find a buddy to play with, you know, or just somebody to who's doing this sort of same thing you are, and say, hey, let's go do it together, because that'd make things a little bit more easier to get done. And you know, it's at the end of the day, it's a social game. Now, of course, I'm all for having MMOs encompass and allow for the ability to be social in your own way or own comfort level. But at the end of the day, it's an RPG, it's an MMO grouping, whether it be with, say, an NPC henchman or with other players, should be the underlying design choice and factor. But let's go on, shall we? One of the coolest things was getting my own ship. My own ship! I got some quests too, to go out and do some space battles. I didn't do them at first because I was worried I'd lose and maybe my ship would crash or something, and I wouldn't have it anymore. Yeah, I could understand that. When I finally got around to trying them out, I did fail miserably, but I still had my ship, much to my relief. So back to questing and leveling up. Cam was great to have as a healer, but he scared the hell out of me. It was always in the back of my mind when I was fighting 7,000 mobs, is this when he devours me? I mean, he keeps saying, soon. I just never trusted that guy. And then Andronicus came into the story, and man, was I ever happy. He was a ranged healer, which was nice. He wasn't always going on about eating my soul or whatever. I liked him. I wish I had read up on the game now, because I had no idea you could have a love interest. When I first saw the option to flirt as one of my choices, I wondered why a Sith would flirt with a pirate. That didn't make any sense. So I never made those choices, and I really wish I would have known. Might have been an interesting story. Not really. They do end, and they don't carry on, unfortunately. Eventually, I started crafting and working on the best gear for my level. We're going to start paraphrasing. I went back to the lower levels for something. Oh, yes, yeah. And mobs didn't ignore me. They attacked me. and I wasn't one-shotting them. What the hell was going on? And oh my god! The game was level synced! There it was on my portrait. The level I actually was. And the level the game wanted me to be. Why had I not seen this before? I felt like a complete idiot. I was also pissed. I hate level syncing. I think it's an incredibly lazy and cheap game design. And you won't get any argument from me on that point. So I came to the forums with the intention of making a post. Level syncing sucks, or something along those lines, but I found someone had already made one. And there's been more than just one, I'll have you know. So I posted in that, and people were like, but I can go to lower areas and be the same level as my friend. Isn't that great? And I'm like, no! A mentoring system is great. It's something you can toggle on and off. And other people were like, you can't one-shot mobs anymore. Isn't that awesome? No. No, it isn't. You know what's awesome? Going back at level 50 and two-shotting Stitches. That was awesome. Dancing on his gelatinous corpse with his femur yelling, "Pond!" That was awesome. So I start wondering why I'm even leveling up or gearing up at all. But I go ahead and finish up my story. And caught Fee. Along the way I lost my companions and got a bunch more. I don't even know who most of them are. Fought even more densely packed mobs and destroyed a bunch of generators and stuff. The density of mobs and the lack of downtime activities just make the game seem weary after a while. Etc., etc., etc. So there was one thing I wanted to point out here. There was a... Anyways, I also tried to get a group to do world bosses so I could scratch off that follower quest. I yelled in Fleet on a Saturday, then on Monday, Tuesday, and again on Friday. I only got one whisper from a guy who asked how many people in my group so far. I asked him if he thought we could two-man it. I never heard from him again. So that's that, I suppose. All in all, I've enjoyed my time here. Just thought I'd share that. And of course, level syncing. If I do quit, it'll be because of level syncing. That nonsense annoys the balls off me. Anyway, so there was, I thought... I thought there was a point here where he said this has been about a month after he started. So I think somehow or other, I think based on when he signed up or whatever, it's about a month. About a month he's been playing, a little over a month. And so that's one of the things I wanted to point out, besides what he says about level syncing. Of course, everyone knows my feelings on level syncing. Yeah, annoys the balls off me too. But as he said here, you know, he wants to go back and one-shot, two-shot mobs. I'm sort of ambivalent on that. That doesn't really matter. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, if I'm a max level character, I'm going back to an early level planet. Yeah, I should be mowing down stuff like it's no problem. Again, that's never bothered me. Like I said, you know, people ask for a mentoring system. That would be a bigger benefit to the game than the carte blanche level syncing we have. But again, it's not solely the level syncing is the problem. It's the enhanced experience game, the power leveling, the speed leveling that they've turned the leveling process into. That is probably the biggest problem with the game right now. Level syncing, I think well, mentoring system is awesome. A level syncing system is good. As I've mentioned as I've stated several times before, a level syncing system, if implemented correctly, is a very good benefit to any game. This, however, is not implemented correctly. Again, making world bosses group content, absolutely. They should. All heroic areas should be level synced in terms of world bosses. I think there should be an option to play heroics level synced and non-level synced, the vanilla style. Same thing with flashpoints. You should be able to play flashpoints and operations level synced, and also play vanilla style. So if you just want to go in to try to collect some piece of specific gear, even though it's not on level, if you just want to collect gear for the looks, because hey, we do have the outfit tabs now, so level of gear is no longer really a factor if you are gearing up to a specific look. So if you want to collect all of the Hammer Station specific gear, which of course you can't anymore because it was removed, which is another problem with all these changes for 4.0, well, you could just keep running it back at an upper level and not take a whole lot of time to do it to try to collect that gear. You can grind for that particular piece of gear you need to complete the look. To me, that's standard fare. That should be standard fare in an RPG, in an MMO. I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that because it's a matter of player choice. With level syncing, our choices of players have been removed from how we want to play this game. Again, yes, in certain instances, like world bosses, level syncing should be mandatory to make sure they are group content. But again, one of the arguments for having level sync the way it is because of world bosses and forcing it to be group content. But as we have seen, what do we see here? You still can't get a group. So ultimately, what's the point? I mean, at this point, you need to change the mechanics of world bosses so people can be able to complete this stuff, check off that box for quests or achievements or whatever in some form or manner. I mean, if it needs to be level synced to the point to where it can be soloed, but it's of course more difficult to solo than in the old days where you could take max level, just go in there and wipe the floor with the world bosses. Yeah, then let's do that. But let's have the option. Something needs to change, and I think it's the power leveling, and level syncing go off that. But again, good, honest first impressions from a noob. But again, one of the other problems I had was that he just started playing. It's not too long ago. Oh yes, here it goes. And now I find it's his opening sentence. I started playing just a little over a month ago, so it's just a little over a month and 4 days ago since he posted this, and he's completed coffee at this point. So he's completed the entire quest chain for Inquisitor and completed coffee in a month. 1 month to complete the story. And now, of course, he can't get into group content. Now, I'm not sure exactly how Beggar and Colony is in terms of population. But again, this goes back to what I stated a few episodes ago about BioWare changing the login screen and the server information screen. So you cannot see what are heavy populated servers and what are quote-unquote dead servers. So as a noob like Piper here, how is he supposed to know if he ultimately wants to play group content and wants to have an enjoyable experience playing group content, then he needs to play a populated server. So without any other information on choosing a server when you're logging into the game, how the hell are you supposed to know what server to go to meet what you wanted to, in order to meet what you want to do in the game? If you want to play group content, you're going to have to go to a populated server. Well, how do you know which one's populated and which one's dead? I mean, seriously, with these changes. So that's a problem. Again, pointing out the problem. But again, the problem with, he's done the content in a month. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, was this about 4.5 years ago, 5.5 years ago now, when the game launched, December 2011? through the early parts of, January, February 2012, I had a little problem. A little problem with the game in that there wasn't a lot of endgame content per se. And come the end of January, there was a good portion of the player base that was done with the game. And this was all before speed leveling. So 2 months in, and people were wondering where the content was. And what was it? 6 to 8 months later, the game was free to play. By August of 2012, the game was in dire straits because people just blew through the content too fast. And now, what do we have? We have power leveling, and a default option which removes all side quests from your map unless you go in there to manually turn it on, which again, how is a new player going to know that? So now we have the same scenario, except this time we can't go free to play because we're already free to play. And we have already seen issues with the content release and stuff like this on how they've set up Dulfy. And there's no indication that it's going to change with Kotet or whatever this new expansion is. I think we've got some problems. If a new player can blow through all this content in a month, that's a problem. MMOs are supposed to be about longevity. It's not about getting from A to B as fast as you can. That's not what an MMO is about. That's not what an RPG is about. But yet, this is exactly what we've got right now with SWTOR. And I think that's a problem. But it's nothing that we haven't tried to discuss and mention before. And unfortunately, at this point, there's no signs of any of it unfortunately changing, which is it is unfortunate because I think it is at the end hastening the demise of this game. There's absolutely no reason why SWTOR can't be one of those games that goes 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. There's no reason that come 2021 we shouldn't still be playing this game, or even 2031 that we shouldn't still be playing be able to play SWTOR in some fashion. Of course, there's all sorts of other factors that would factor into, computer technology and the industry and that kind of stuff. But in a vacuum, there's no reason why we shouldn't be playing Dulfy, in 2031, or playing SWTOR in 2031. But unfortunately, I don't see that kind of longevity with the game with the current design fashion that BioWare has chosen to follow. Level syncing and power leveling being among the issues contributing to that. But anyway, let's get on with the meat and bones here. We've gone on long enough with that. Welcome, anyway, Piper, to the game. Glad we're glad you're enjoying the game so far. Just temper your expectations. That's all I would advise you to do at this point. All right. So apparently this was a private Q&A that someone sent to Dulfy. Let the hate flow through you. So basically just responses to this Q&A that someone sent to Dulfy, and that Dulfy put up on her site, which we will go to now as soon as I some adjustments here. Okay, SWTOR celebration Cantina Q&A on the group content, and let me do this as well because this is going to be an important factor here, which we'll just get to in a minute. But anyway, SWTOR celebration Cantina Q&A on group content. So this is a little Dulfy's intro here. A reader has sent over this private Q&A he had with the developers with a focus on group content. Information from developers in no particular order with no names. Some answers were paraphrased. Special thanks to the person who sent this in. Okay, first things first. When I initially saw this, I had the reaction that many others had in the post on the forums, and have had in the comments section on Dulfy's site here. In that, okay, this is a load of BS. I would find it hard to believe that this is an actual genuine conversation. I was going to take Dulfy to task a little bit for actually putting this up here without verifying her sources and vetting this out to ensure that, you know, this wasn't just some sort of, you know, BS, hooey pooey, hocus pocus, you know, trolling type attempt. But this is where this comes into play. This comment later here. Let's get back into here. We'll spread this out here. But all right, this was a couple of days ago. Again, people are saying how bad this Q&A is. Let me remind you all what it says at the top. A reader sent this over, this private Q&A, etc., etc. This private comment. There are no names. It's no way official firewall. All this someone trolling us. And here's Dulfy. The person who sent me this Q&A sent me in a pic of them taking a pic with the developers at the London Cantina. Also, parts of this Q&A were overheard and confirmed by multiple people that attended the Cantina, so it is not made up. Which, that being said, I think is even a little more disturbing to me now that this has sort of been verified. Again, we don't know how true some of these details are, but we know that this did happen, and that there is in it at least some truth to what we're about to go through here. Now, initially, I was going to go through this anyway, on the basis that saying, you know, this is probably what some people do think, and have an answer for that anyway. But now that we know this is more than likely coming from one or more of the developers, or one or more of the development team, this is especially disturbing. But again, it disturbing in that what they say and some of the excuses they come up with in here. But again, it goes back to what we've been saying in the last couple of episodes of the complete disconnect that BioWare has right now with the player base. And, you know, this is just one more I don't want to say nail in the coffin, but one more example of that complete disconnect, in that BioWare doesn't really have a grasp on how they really should be designing this game for the current player base, and designing this game to ensure the longevity of the game and to encourage more people to actually come in and enjoy the game, as Piper has done, in a more equitable manner for the player base. But anyway, let's get on with this. Okay. So, question. Why do so many questions go ignored for so long? It becomes hard to try and defend the dev team in BioWare. Why can't you just say there will be more group content or there will be more ops? Answer from the developers. It all comes down to Shadow of Revan. What? Already? It's like, well, what does Shadow of Revan have to do with saying, yes, we are making ops? That's the first thing I have to say. It's like, what in the hell does Shadow of Revan have to do with making more ops? Yes or no? You already know. We've already said this last couple. You already know if you are making ops. Just tell us. We don't need a date for it. We know it's going to be a long time. We know you just started working on it. So don't BS us. Some of us are smarter than that anyway. We know ops are at least a year away, year to year and a half away right now. If we are indeed getting ops 12 to 18 months before we see the new operation. I'm just putting that out right now. Anyway, I have no problem with that. I'm not a big ops player, but from the content of what's good for the game and for a player or a former player, I should say, who would be interested in trying all the content, I'm okay with that. But at least say, yes, we are making ops. None of this BSing and being around the bush like you've done in the past developer stream and all this stuff. It's like, well, we're making group content. I can't say it's this or I can't say it's that. I can't say it's not this or not that. Come on. Stop being a freaking jackass and tell us what you are doing. Just say, yes, we're in the process of making ops. It's going to be a while, but yes, we will have ops that are coming into this game, new operations. That's what our goal is. Said and done. And you know how much good faith and goodwill that'll actually put on the community? Just that 2 sentences you have to say. I mean, really? Are you guys that stupid? Come on. But anyway, let's get back to this. And that's just the first sentence. We announced we would release info on a new expansion, and when the date of the announcement came, we had issues and had to delay the announcement. Now, I don't remember that. I do remember an announcement that was going to be made, and it was delayed by a day. I don't specifically remember what it was about, but it seems to me the way I recall, it was about something. It could have been something about the expansion, this and that, but at the end of the day, I sort of seem to remember it was going to be something about, enhanced XP or something special. They didn't know. They had to delay it for a day because they didn't know if they actually could do it. So they delayed the announcement until they realized after that day, whatever problem they ran into, they said, oh, yeah, we can do it now. I seem to remember that's what the delay was about. And it turned out that the delay was nothing really spectacular. At least in my point of view. Again, it was something about, 2x XP or enhanced, the 12x XP or something like that. And, oh, we can do this now. Great. I seem to remember, a great boon for subscribers. We got a great thing for you subscribers. This and that. Again, this is where the problem comes in. It wasn't that they delayed by a day. It was the overhype of something that they had to delay because they weren't sure they can do it. Then when they announced what it wasn't really that big of a deal. Again, whatever it was, the enhanced XP, it's like, okay, you delayed it, the announcement, a day, just so you can say, oh, yes, we're having this now. I mean, I think that's where the problem is, not because you delayed for a day, but because it was complete BS what you were hyping up. And had a complete BS why you delayed the announcement for a day. It didn't need to be delayed a day just for that piece of BS. That was the problem. Not that you actually delayed the announcement for a day and everybody went up in arms. It was all the other stuff around that. Not to mention, okay, if we're talking about Shadows of Revan, all the other issues with Shadows of Revan that launched, when it launched, and the problems that went on for weeks and weeks and weeks and then months and months until 3 months in, something was finally done about it. I think that's why the player base was up in arms around that time. Again, complete effing disconnect. They've got no clue on some of this stuff. But let's get back to reading this non-answer or whatever you want to call it. The negative reaction was off the scale. Again, it wasn't off the scale because the announcement was delayed by a day. It's everything else that had to do with that. That's what sent everybody off the deep end. So get it right, BioWare. Get it right. And even though we announced the next working day, the damage was done, and it overshadowed the entire release of Shadow of Revan, and as a result, it ruined the build-up to the expansion. Again, and no, it didn't. It's everything. It wasn't that delay. It was everything else around it. It was the horrible testing. It was the horrible launch. It was the horrible overhype on something most of the player base really didn't care about. That's what ruined it. And then the factors afterwards. That's what destroyed Shadow of Revan, BioWare. Your total screw-ups and non-actions during the expansion and post-release. That's what ruined everything. That's what started the downhill slide we find ourselves in now. All the stuff, not because you delayed an announcement by one day. That really had nothing to do with the matter. But again, more BS, more... where are they coming up with this stuff, really? But for that reason, you're not going to announce anything now? Again, that's a completely stupid-ass excuse not to announce stuff. Completely stupid-ass excuse. Oh, I might get hit by a car today, so you know what? I won't walk outside my front door. Ever. Oh, I might get shot in the mall. I guess I won't walk outside my front door. Ever! Are people going to be pissed about something? Yes, somebody's always going to be pissed about something. That's no excuse not to do anything. It's like this excuse when we go into the forums talking about changes or doing options for level sync. We don't want them to change level sync because if they make changes to the game, it might create bugs. So they shouldn't make changes to level syncing because it might create bugs. So, with that thought in mind, the game should stop development right now because anything they do might create bugs. So we'll just stop the development. That's the kind of stupidity and asinine thinking that this is. People might get mad if we announce something or have to delay something. So we won't announce anything. That's just stupid. Come on. This is the reason why. We know what everyone wants and we try to plan ahead in the best way. Sometimes this means leaving one side of the game alone to catch up in another area we need to work on. That does not mean that the other areas are not in our plans or that they are not being worked on. There are people at work in one room right now on one thing. Other people in another room right now working on another thing. And other people in other rooms working on other things. What can I say about new ops? Well, remember, when for like a year all people asked us was more PvP, more PvP, more PvP. And then bang, we released not one, but 2 new PvPs. He left that hanging for a moment, then pulled a suggestive facial expression before we moved on, which I have no idea what that means. Well, people have been asking for a lot of things. Yes, people have been asking for PvP, and PvP is still the most neglected part of the game. People have been asking for ops. People have been asking for housing. People have been asking for story. People have been asking for every part of the game throughout the game's lifespan. But the problem we have here is what he said, is that sometimes this means leaving one side of the game alone to catch up with another in an area we need to work on. That's a problem, because in MMO development, you cannot do that. You need to make sure each part of the game is sustainable. Now, in an expansion, yes, you can have an expansion focus on one area. One particular area is the main focus, but that does not mean you can leave all other areas aside. An expansion needs to have each major part of the game encompassed with new content or updates or something like that. Unfortunately, that's not what we've seen with any expansion since really Rise of the Hutt Cartel. Shadows of Revan did a little bit, but you know, I mean, for the most part, almost since the first year of this game, all we have seen is just the focus on one particular thing and everything else left to atrophy almost. And that's a problem. And that's, again, one of the problems why we find ourselves in the downward slide where we are at today. If BioWare cannot or is not in the position to be able to work on more than one part of the game and get stuff out on a regular basis, and regular meaning at least once a year, then there are major problems with this game, and BioWare really seriously needs to rethink the current direction they're going in, because you need to have new ops at least once a year. You need to have fresh PvP once a year. You need to have fresh space once a year. All this stuff needs to be done in a year. You cannot let this stuff slide year after year just to focus on story. So the fact that this focus on story is taking resources away from everything else, that's a major problem. Again, this is coming from a story-oriented player. That's a major problem. That's detrimental to the game. Everything needs to be worked on. Everything needs a fresh infusion of whatever every year at the very minimum. Some of the stuff probably less than a year, but again, ops, PvP. PvP is a little bit easier to design for than ops. Ops is a little less ROI for the time spent. A little bit more problematic to try to get out in a timely manner for the limited number of people who will actually enjoy it to its fullest. But I mean, at minimum, you need to have something new every year in each component of the game. We've not gotten that, and that's the problem. Okay, I know you can't confirm anything, but if I were to go around telling people that it is ridiculous to think the game will never have new group content or ops, would I be right to say that? Or would there be a chance I could end up being proved wrong? And here we go with the typical stupidly asinine nouns. We can never say never, but we know what people want. We know what everyone is talking about. But things take time. We can only focus on certain areas at a time, and this gets back to what we're doing. You're only focusing on story. Essentially, this is what it's telling. Things are always being planned ahead, and like I said, there are people right now working on things in a room somewhere. Can we always do what everyone wants within a time scale that keeps everyone happy? No, obviously. But that doesn't mean that we are not going to get around to it. If the community asks for something, then it takes us 6 months to do the thing. But 3 months into that 6-month period, the community started asking for another thing, and we can't just stop or divert away from the current thing. That doesn't mean that we haven't taken it on board and that we're ignoring you guys. Things take time. Yes, we understand it takes time. We understand, but the problem is, it's not like the community here has been changing gears. We have been asking for the same things for 5 freaking years. Essentially, at the end of the day, all we're asking for is a little consistency, and with what I just mentioned, a little consistency with the design of the game. Let it be a little bit more encompassing to all sorts of play styles, so you're not forced into speed leveling. And at the end of the day, make sure every area of the game is taken care of within a reasonable amount of time. Now, of course, I think a year is reasonable. That's the problem here. That's where the disconnect is here. We're not asking for one thing and then all of a sudden 6 months later asking for something else. We've been asking for the same thing for 5 freaking years. So this answer is complete bullshit. Absolute BS. That's unacceptable in my mind. It must be hard to deal with the negativity sometimes when you know certain things but just can't say anything. That's the hardest part of my job. I don't deny that. I do sometimes wish they could all see I'm on your side. I'm like your mother effing soldier here fighting for what you guys want and need, but sometimes what they want and what they need are not hand in hand with what we have to compromise or do our best to get things done in the right order. But man, we want to get it all out there for you guys as best as we can and say, here you go. Well, that's good. Now, I'm just wondering if we can try to determine who this particular dev is here answering this, just based on those comments. But at least that's promising. But again, it's not like we're throwing curveballs here at BioWare. I mean, we've been asking for the same stuff. And it is not unreasonable to expect, what I've just said. Expect something new for all parts of the game every year. That's not really unreasonable. Or it shouldn't be unreasonable to expect that. Now, if BioWare can't deliver that, then you know what? They need to be upfront about that, saying, you know what? We have very limited resources. We unfortunately would like to be able to do this stuff in a more timely manner, but we can't because obviously our budgets and our staffing is limited. So we can only do this, and do things the way we're doing it. At least be upfront and honest about it. Just like saying, if you're working on new ops, just say, yes, we're working on new ops. It's going to be a while. But you will get new ops in the future. See, they don't want to say it because they don't want to be held accountable for that. So there is no guarantee that we will ever get ops. That's why they're hedging their bets here, because there's no guarantee that the group content they are actually working on is the actual group content that people are looking for. Otherwise, just say it. Otherwise, just say, yes, we are making new flashpoints. We're making new ops this time. So tell us specifically what this group content is. They don't want to tell us because they're afraid of a repeat of what happened with Kotvi and the pre-announcement and stuff like that, where they were holding back information they knew would be very volatile and piss off a big part of the player base. So they held it back as long as they could. I see a pattern forming here with how they're discussing future information here. I have to ask, and sorry, I know you'll be sick of hearing this, but will there be new ops? Look, don't worry, man. I will answer the best I can. Look, do we know that everyone wants it? Yes. Do we want to do it? Yes. Are we able to do it? Yes. So why would we not? Look, it takes time, and it may not be as soon as people want, but yes. It'd be crazy not to look at more ops. Just one thing at a time, you know. But we look at the best way forward and how and when to change direction, or add this or add that. And we hear you. We really do. And I can't promise anything. But if we don't say we are doing something, then it doesn't mean we are not doing something. Really. Up to that point, that whole answer there was saying, yeah, we're not working on ops. That's what that whole answer was saying. Until the last sentence here. But if we don't say we are doing something, then it doesn't mean we are not doing something. But yet, everything you mentioned up to that point means you're not doing ops. So everybody's asking for it. We've been asking for it for years. So there's no shift in direction there. Everybody has been asking for ops for years. Well, not everyone wants it, but yes. A portion of the player base, a significant portion of the player, not significant in large, but a significant as in income generating portion of the player base wants it. So yes, they can do it. So why would we not? Yes, that's the question. Why wouldn't you do ops? So why wouldn't you be working on ops right now? And if you are working on ops, why wouldn't you say, yes, we are working on a new operation? Is it because of just what I mentioned, that they are indeed not working on new operations? It's other group content other than operations? And they don't really want to back themselves into a corner by confirming or denying the fact that they are not working on operations? And there are actually no long-term plans for operations? That's what I get out of that answer. And the final two, the penultimate one. When it comes to adding new classes, the stance has always been that it would be too hard to integrate new classes into the original class story, so why can't we simply have new classes? So basically starting new classes, which, I mean, this has been discussed ad nauseum throughout the forums throughout the years. Yeah, again, and for the same things here. New classes are something we discussed for a long time. It's something I think we would all like to do. But yes, adding them to the original story is something that would probably stop that from going forward. We have to look at lots of ways to do it and talked about how we could add new classes. Adding them to layer expansions like you suggest could work. But then we would still have to deal with class balance. And a lot of people may simply complain about new classes and don't want them in the game due to balancing. Again, that's a bullshit answer. That's like I had mentioned before. Well, I might get shot if I walk out my front door. So you know what? I'm just going to stay sitting on my couch forever and ever. Gee, people might complain if I do something. So I will never ever do something. That's a completely asinine excuse. People might complain if we add new classes. Really? When did that become a viable excuse for anything? Oh, people might get upset, so we shouldn't do it. Gee. if I plant some grass, it might grow, and I would have to mow it. Therefore, I should not plant grass. But then, if it's just a dirt patch and it rains, it'll turn into mud and the house will get dirty. What a quandary. I don't know what to do. Come on, that's a bullshit answer. Really, come on. At least if you're not going to do classes, at least come up with a better excuse that, yes, having new classes would be too hard to integrate even if we have these start at 60 type thing. It would just be too hard to integrate into the game and upset the current status quo. That's fine. Not everybody might be happy with it, but at least that's a valid excuse. Not, oh, people might complain, so we're not going to do it. Come on. Seriously? And finally, will future expansions all be episodic and released in monthly intervals? Well, we don't know. I mean, we know it hasn't gone down in the best of ways. Not everyone likes it. Holy crap! Did we finally get an honest answer out of a dev? Wow. Well, we don't know. I mean, we know it hasn't gone down in the best of ways. Not everyone likes it. Some people do like the format, but we're always looking at ways to improve, and if we have to go back on one thing or try a new thing, then that's something we always look at. I think that's the best damn answer I've ever heard, or best damn answer, best damn comment I've actually heard out of BioWare in a long, long time. Kudos, finally, for giving us a decent answer, for giving us a decent comment, for giving us something that's at least a bit honest here. Thank you. And it gives us a little bit of hope. Right here. This one right here. And if we have to go back on one thing or try a new thing, that's something we always look at. So good. That gives me hope. That gives me hope that they are or will still reconsider this carte blanche power leveling scale and level syncing as forced options. I mean, out of everything, those are my two biggest beefs right there. And really, it's the power leveling that starts it. As I've said before, it's like without the power leveling, I don't think level syncing would be as much of a factor in at least my gameplay personally. So I would be at that point ambivalent about it, but I would still like to see it optional nonetheless. But maybe just maybe, I can hope to return as a multi-account subscriber to this game and actually begin enjoying playing this game again. If I can have that option, if they seriously consider having the option to turn off the power leveling and turn off the level syncing. There's that one little bit of hope. Should I cling to it? I don't know. Should I cling to that little bit of hope? But again, the honest answer. Yes, all right. They finally acknowledged that what they've done with Kotfi hasn't been the most popular thing. Is it okay? Yeah. Is the storytelling great? No, it's crap storytelling. But at least they tried something. At least they gave story something. At least they made the effort. I'll give them credit for that. I mean, much of what they've done is garbage, but hey, at least they went through the effort. They now realize, hey, this is probably not the best way to have done it, but hey, we'll see what the future holds. You know, maybe we'll cling on to that little bit of hope a little bit longer. But anyway, that's it for this episode. That's what we wanted to go over. So, what do you think? Let's discuss it. Discuss Tale on YouTube. Discuss it in the forums. Even more. We'll see what the future brings. We'll see what the future of SWTOR brings. Hopefully it brings design decisions that are more welcoming, more open the arms and welcome the masses in, instead of, closing us into a funnel. We'll see. In the meantime, this is Darth Oblivious saying thanks for watching, and until next time, I will see you in game and on the forums.